So I want to start by chatting about what I'm teaching at the moment and how I think that's of real benefit to people. At the moment, my main teaching subjects for the coming year are going to be Paul's letter to the Romans and Jesus and the Synoptic Gospels for undergraduates, and probably do a little bit of master's tuition in preaching as well. I think that undergraduate students get really excited when they see that biblical figures like Paul were real people. They were caught up in the real pastoral and relational crises that we face ourselves. And they had a backdrop as well in the social and political currents of the time. So I think this is one of the main things which helps Paul's letters, for example, come to life for students, is the sense that they weren't written in a vacuum. And when you see that, the words start to leap off the page. So, for example, when Paul tells the Christians in Rome not to judge one another, and you stop to think that this group was a mixture of people from pious Jewish backgrounds and loose-living pagan ones. You've got some slaves, some free, some desperately poor, some caught up in the Roman honor system of climbing up the greasy pole. You start to feel how radical and yet how hopeful that message was of don't judge one another. You can actually be one in Christ. If he expected even this lot to be united in Christ, how much more people today? And I think this sense of the human aspect coming to life is perhaps even more true when you're looking at Jesus and the Gospels. It can be a real eye-opener for some students to start to appreciate that Jesus was a real human being, a physical person who engaged with other real people in all the pressures that they faced, the pressures of sickness, of poverty, of oppression, and gave them hope in that situation. And then, as you start to wrestle with the fact that this same Jesus that we worship as Lord and God, this is the same one, then that sets your theology on fire, but it also keeps pulling your faith down to earth, because this Jesus isn't fundamentally asking us just to get wrapped up in singing songs and being transported into some other world as we worship. He's calling us to follow him in the midst of all the messiness of our real physical lives. So those things always excite me, even though I've been teaching these things for many years. It's always really exciting to come to these with a new group of students. And then for the students who come to reflect on a subject like preaching as experienced ministers, it's great to see them gain new insights as they start to look at what they do from a new angle. For example, a preacher in a local church who does a project to find out how exactly what he says week by week is being heard and received by his congregation. That's something which can really transform not only that preacher's preaching, but also the whole relationship he has with the people among whom he or she ministers. So these are always exciting things to engage with students that I find.